Good day, students. We are still in our third quarter, but this week we are learning about atoms inside out, and we'll begin with Lesson 1, Atomic Models and Theories. Before we talk about atomic models and theories, let's have a short review. Last week, we talked about physical change and chemical change. Now, I have here 5 situations or statements, and all you have to do is to identify if that particular situation tells about physical change or chemical change. Get a scratch paper or maybe your notebook, and then write your answers. Pause this video, later come back to see if your answers are correct. Time's up! Tignan nga natin kung tama yung mga sagot ninyo. Here are the correct answers. Ayan. Please check your own work. If you are able to get a perfect score, congratulations. It means that you studied well last week. Let's have atomic models and theories. So here are the objectives. So first, we'll be discussing about the historical background of atom and its subatomic particles, and later on, we'll try to differentiate atoms from molecules. Let's talk about the atom and its history. So, sino kaya yung mga naunang nag-aral or nagkaroon ng idea about sa atoms? We have the ancient Greeks. Now, Greeks, they believe that matter consisted of 4 basic substances: earth, water, fire, and wind. There was one particular Greek philosopher who used the term atomos, which means indivisible. And sabi niya, matter consists of atoms that are too small to be seen by our naked eye. He also said that there are empty spaces between these atoms and that atoms differ in sizes, weight, and shape. This is how Democritus looked like. In 1800s, there was a scientist named John Dalton, and he proposed the billiard ball model of an atom. So siguro you are familiar with billiard ball, tama? Now here are his ideas. So he said that matter is composed of indivisible particles called atoms. So pareha sila ng idea ng ancient Greeks that atoms are indivisible, or yun na yung pinakamaliit daw na part. Next, all atoms of a given element are identical in mass and properties. So, pare-parehas daw yung mass and properties ng atoms ng isang element. However, pag magkakaiba na yung element, of course, sabi nila, iba-iba na rin daw yung properties and masses ng mga atoms na nandoon. Then, the third one, when 2 or more atoms combine, makakabuo raw ng compound. And fourth, according to Dalton, atoms cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, cannot be converted during chemical reaction. So, yun na daw yun. Hindi na yan pwedeng sirain, hindi na pwedeng gawin, or hindi na siya pwedeng i-convert. So, the billiard ball model as proposed by John Dalton looked like this. Ayan. And then, meron isa ulit scientist who tried to talk about atoms. So, he was named J.J. Thomson. He was credited for discovering the electron. Electron is one part of an atom. And then he proposed the plum pudding model, and it is also known as the raisin bread model, or some others call it chocolate chip cookie model of an atom. So what are the key points of his model? But before that, let me show you this one. This diagram here is a chocolate chip cookie. So let's see how this one is the same as his model. So he said that each atom is a sphere filled with positively charged fluid. So isang bilog daw si atom, and then marami siyang, or it is filled with positive charges. Now, number 2, corpuscles, and later on they were called electrons, are the negatively charged particles suspended in the fluid. So aside from the positive charge, meron din daw negative charges na nandoon sa atom. Okay? And then third, atoms of all elements contain electrons. Yan. So this diagram here, yung pinaka cookie, that would represent the sphere containing positive charge, and yung chocolate chips are the electrons. So this is how it would look like. Ayan. Yan. So yung pinakakabuuan daw ng atom has a positive charge, and then may mga embedded or may mga nakalagay lang doon na electrons which have negative charges. So eto si Sir John Joseph Thomson. Alright, so there is another scientist who talked about atom, and this one is Sir Ernest Rutherford. This scientist is famous for his gold foil experiment na pag-uusapan natin later on. This gold foil experiment led him to believe that the atom has a positive center known as the nucleus. And according to him, the nucleus is a tiny positively charged part of the atom, and it contains most of the atom's mass. Sabi niya rin, electrons are orbiting the nucleus, or umiikot daw ang electrons sa labas ng nucleus. Then, his model was known as the nuclear model. And it looked like this one. So, ayan. So, sabi niya, yung nucleus or yung pinakagitna ng atom has a positive charge. Tapos, there are orbits around the nucleus, and dun makikita yung mga electrons. So, he further concluded that the nucleus is small. Napakaliit lang daw ng nucleus. However, it contains most of the mass of an atom. Pinakabigat daw ng atom is nasa nucleus. And he said that the nucleus is positively charged and that the atom is almost an empty space. Naalala niyo yung raisin bread model or the chocolate chip cookie model of an atom by THOMSON? Diba sabi doon, yung pinaka-cookie daw or yung pinaka-tinapay has a positive charge, tapos may mga nakakalat lang na negative charges or the electrons. However, si Rutherford, he had another idea. So to check if his ideas were correct, he performed this gold foil experiment together with his colleagues. And here was the setup. So meron siyang gold foil na nilagay sa gitna. That's very thin. Then he had a detecting screen with a small slit, and in this slit, dito niya itinutok yung alpha particle emitter. By the way, when we say alpha particle, the charge of it is positive. So sabi nga ulit ni Thomson, positive daw yung kabuuan ng atom. Tapos may mga nakakalat lang na electrons doon. However, sa experiment ni Rutherford, nung binombard niya ng alpha particles yung gold foil, ano yung nangyari? Most shot went straight through. Tumagos-tagos lang daw. So sabi niya, oh, there's something else. Then, there were some amount of alpha particles which were deflected. May mga bumalik. So, nag-isip siya, bakit bumalik yung mga yun? Bakit nagkaroon ng repulsion? Remember, pag sinabi natin, same charges, positive and positive, magkakaroon ng repulsion. So, yun, nagkaroon siya ng idea. Oh, baka yung gitnang part nito, or may part dito sa atom na to, positive yung charge niya. And, yung iba naman, pagka-hit niya dun sa gold foil, sa gitna ng gold foil, ang lakas ng balik, bumalik siya kaagad. So, it gave him the idea that atoms is mostly empty space kasi tumagos-tagos lang yung mga alpha particles. And that he said the mass of an atom is concentrated in the center. Nasa gitna daw yung pinakabigat ng atom. And then he said that electrons are outside the nucleus. Now, siguro tatanungin nyo, ma'am, yung alpha particles, they are positive. So, bakit hindi siya na-attract dun sa electrons? The answer is that electrons are too small and then they are very, very magaan as compared to these positively charged alpha particles. So, yung mass ng electrons actually are almost negligible. So, yan yung experiment ni Rutherford, confirming that there is a center of an atom. And sabi niya, ang charge daw ng center ng atom or the nucleus is positive. So, later titignan natin kung tama siya. Following the work of Rutherford was his student named James Chadwick. Okay? So, si Chadwick, pinag-aralan niya rin yung tungkol sa nucleus. However, he made some refinements on it. So, he discovered that the nucleus contains neutral particles. So, when we say neutral, walang charge. As well as, meron din daw positive particles na nandoon sa nucleus. Kanina, sabi ni Rutherford, yung nucleus daw ay positive. But, with Chadwick, sabi niya, it's not just positive charges, kundi meron ding no charges or neutral charges doon sa nucleus. So later on, yung neutral particles ay tinawag nilang neutrons. Tapos yung mga positively charged particles were then called protons. So work about the atom continued. There is another scientist named Niels Bohr, and he proposed the planetary model of an atom. And then according to his model, yung mga electrons daw ay nakapalibot sa nucleus, but there are specific energy levels or shells. So ito yung mga bilog-bilog na yan na nakikita nyo outside the nucleus. So he termed this electron energy levels or shells. Now, what are the key ideas of his model? So he said, electrons move around nucleus in orbits that have a set size and energy. Okay? Then he said, the lower the orbit, or pag mas malapit yung orbit dun sa nucleus, it has the lower energy also. Then yung mga electrons, they fill up orbitals. So una munang i-fill up ay yung pinaka merong mababang energy. So yung pinaka malapit daw muna sa nucleus ang mafi-fill up. Tapos susunod yung next na orbital, and next, pataas ng pataas yung energy. Ayan si Niels Bohr nung kabataan niya yan. Alright. Finally, we have another model proposed by Erwin Schrödinger in the 1920s, and his atomic model was called the quantum mechanical model, and it has the following ideas. Though this quantum mechanical model, it actually it's the most complex because it would involve computation, mathematical computations. But the idea was that an electron does not travel in an exact orbit. So wala daw talagang eksaktong orbit yung mga electrons na yan. However, he said that the location of an electron can be predicted. So pwede daw ma-predict by mathematical computations kung nasaan nakapwesto yung mga electrons na yan. And then he said that orbitals, or also known as electron clouds, contain complex shapes. So let's see, this is how he looked like, and his model was like this. So yung mga naka-blue dyan, they are the electron clouds. So dyan daw, within the electron clouds, possible na makita or matagpuan yung mga electrons, but we cannot directly or exactly predict where the electron is located. Ngayon naman, tignan natin yung development ng different atomic models. Na. So, we started with this, the billiard ball model. So, sino ba yung proponent niyan? Kung natatandaan nyo pa, okay, hindi ko sasabihin. You go back later on. And then, we have this plum pudding model, also known as the raisin bread model or the chocolate chip cookie model. Tapos, nabuo ang isa pang model known as the nuclear model. And then, nagkaroon tayo ng anong model to? Alright, this one is the planetary model. And finally, what we have now is the quantum mechanical model. Alright. Okay, so we are done discussing the different atomic models and theories. So, included na dun yung history. So, now let's try to differentiate atoms from molecules. So, I have here a table that would show you the differences. So, pag sinabi nating atom, these are the fundamental units of matter. Tapos, kapag molecule naman, it is made up of 2 or more atoms. Now, atoms, they have protons, neutrons, and electrons. Then, si molecules naman, they have more than 2 atoms of the same element, or pwede rin namang different elements, as you can see on the diagram on the right. Now, si atoms daw, they are not stable as compared to molecules. Tapos, atoms, they can be separated by chemical reactions because parang sila na kasi yung pinaka-building blocks. So, hindi na sila pwedeng mapaghiwa-hiwalay pa. However, yung molecules, they can still be separated by chemical reactions. So, let's have our sit work kasi we are done with lesson 1. So, I would like to know if you learned something so far. Please get your notebook and answer the following. Sagot na lang ang sisulat. And then, ipapasa nyo ito mamaya kay teacher ninyo. You may take a photograph of it and then submit through your GC or through your respective teacher. So, for letter A, you just have to write what is asked for. Answers only na lang yan. And then, for letter B, I would like you to draw the given atomic models and write to propose it. So, for example, yung number 1, billiard ball model of an atom, i-drawing, paano ba yun? And then, isulat kung sino yung proponent. Alright, students? Thank you for listening and please stay tuned for lesson 2. Goodbye!